Hey everybody, today I'm going to be telling you guys the story about my stalker. We're going to call this kid Bob. Unlike in my last video where I talked about someone and I referred to them by their real name, I'm legitimately afraid that this kid might get upset and try to, I don't know, do something. For 9th grade, I attended the high school whose district that I lived in. There's this kid, Bob. He was really tall, just like the last crazy kid from my crazy stories. He was probably 6'3"-ish. And he was one of those fat people, but he was athletic. And I've never understood that combination. He was on the football team and he did all sorts of different things, but he was fat. I can never understand that. We were acquaintances. I would not have considered him a friend, and I do not consider him a friend. We never hung out in or outside of school. We just knew each other. We were on Snapchat together. After freshman year, I did the School of Choice program in Michigan where you can attend a school whose district you do not live in. So I hadn't been at that school for months at this point. And on Friday the 13th, 2018, I leave my house at 7:20 in the morning to go to school. I hop in my car and I have a longer driveway. So I start going down the driveway. And as I near the end of it, I notice that there's a big brown SUV sitting on the road in front of my house. I live on a rural dirt road. So I just thought, this is odd. Something is not right here. The first thing I thought was maybe it's a flat tire or engine troubles, but I didn't really know why. It didn't make sense. So I could see in the car that Bob was in the driver's seat and there's some other kid in the passenger seat who I didn't know. Every single day, my dad would always wave goodbye from the front door. I glance up at my rear view mirror and I see that my dad is peeking his head out of the door. And on the days where he was still in his underwear, he would just look out the window. But today he saw what was happening, so he peeked his head out. Bob got out of the car and walked onto our property trespassing. He filmed me and he said, "Hey, Aaron." And then I drove past him. He got back in his car and began tailgating me, honking at me. And the first thing I thought was, these kids are gonna get their asses kicked. Because my dad is not afraid of anything. He worked in a juvie with the really bad kids who raped and murdered people. So anyhow, my dad goes and he gets in his 1997 Lincoln Town car and drove down the dirt road. I see in my mirror Bob, and then behind him my dad. Now my dad filled me in on the other details, so I couldn't know later on, so you're not confused. So we get to the end of the dirt road, which intersects a paved road, and you go right, go to the town where I was then attending school, and you go left to go to the town that my address is and that Bob goes to school and that I used to go to school. So we get to the intersection and I'm getting ready to turn right. Bob is behind me and he's getting ready to turn left, and my dad pulls up next to Bob. Bob is up high in his car. My dad's down low in his Lincoln Town car. My dad says that Bob looked down and went, he had seen a ghost when he saw my dad. I turned right to go to school. Bob turned left. My dad followed Bob in an attempt to get his license plate number. My dad chased Bob down a rural road at 83 miles an hour. And I'll put whatever that is in kilometers. My dad chased him down probably 5 or 6 miles of road at 83 miles an hour. And then when they got to the start of the town, they pulled off into a church parking lot and they had a confrontation. My dad said the only reason he didn't get out of his car is because he was in his underwear. They rolled down their windows and Bob was like, "What do you want?" My dad was like, "What do you want? You're trespassing." And then they were like, "Oh, we're Aaron's friends." My dad was like, "Bullshit, there's no way." They went back and forth like that for a little bit. And then Bob said, "Oh, well, do you want my name?" And my dad was like, "No, I don't want your fake name. I got your license plate number. I'm going to the cops." My dad went home. Henry went to school. And I didn't know that had just happened. So I get to school. I'm freaking out. I text one of my friends and I tell my friend everything that just happened. Then I sent an email to the vice principal of that school, which I will insert here. And I told her what happened. I was like, "Please do something about this." And she told me she would look into it. So then she emails me back a little bit later and says that she talked to Bob and that he said he was picking up a neighbor in the area, which is total BS because neither of my neighbors went to that school. Eventually, I got in contact with my parents and my mom said that my dad was calling the sheriff and everything. Now, it had turned out that when my dad called the sheriff to give him the number, the license plate number, it didn't come up. My dad had miswritten it down, he wrote down a G as a 6 or vice versa or something like that. He drove to the high school, went through the parking lot, and he found the car again and got the correct license plate number, went back home, called the sheriff again, and we had a cop come out to our house that night. We made a report. School never wound up punishing him because I wasn't a student at school anymore or anything. So they couldn't, but they made him call his mom. And then the cops tried to go to the house that night to give him a copy of the report. It didn't wind up happening. So I never had anything else happen with that kid, but I still think that counts as a stalker because he showed up at my house. I always just like to think of what it must have been like for him shitting his pants, being chased down the road by an old guy in his underpants in a 1997 Lincoln Town Car. If you liked that video and you like my story times or my other content, then please like, comment, and subscribe, and share the video and share the channel and help me grow it so I can make more content for you guys. Thanks. Bye-bye.